Who is the youngest playable character in Genshin Impact? Stop scrolling, I need you to answer that question. Because we are doing this investigation today for one simple reason. I am tired of looking at a Genshin character, trying to figure out their lore, and realizing I need a degree in theoretical physics and a lawyer present just to determine if they're older than my grandmother. We need to settle this debate before the FBI knocks on my door because I called a 500-year-old dragon cute. Is the youngest character Yaoyao, the sweet apprentice from Liu? Is it Klee, the explosive terror of Mondstadt? Or is it the newest character that has captivated the community, the one who looks like a teenager but carries the consciousness of a global catastrophe? The truth is, Genshin Impact is built on chronological paradoxes. Nothing as young as it seems. In Teyvat, age is less about the number of sunrises you've witnessed and more about the complexity of your trauma. Today, we are going to dive into the absolute mess that is the Genshin Impact timeline, expose why the developers are deliberately leaving the ages of our favorite characters vague, and finally determine who the actual baby of the group is. So, let's open the file on the age conundrum. Let's start with the central debate that reignited this entire conversation. The newest character, Durin. Is he a newborn, or is he older than the majority of the Archons? To a casual observer, he looks like a newly formed human, perhaps barely old enough to drink, a fact that has hilariously been pointed out in his own teaser, where he's offered alcohol. But the controversy stems from his essence. Durin is the amalgamation of two separate identities. The actual Durin, the massive shadow dragon created by the alchemist Gold who attacked Mondstadt 500 years ago, and Mini Durin, the simulacrum created from a storybook written by the witch M. The core of the debate rests on a philosophical question. If a soul or consciousness is moved into a new vessel, does the odometer reset? If you look at the evidence provided by the game, the answer is a resounding no. This isn't a blank slate. Durin retains the full memory of both his dragon form and his storybook simulacrum form. He recognizes his original creator as his parent, not the alchemist who helped synthesize his current body. He speaks with the weight of someone who has died, corrupted the land, and been reborn. He is essentially an immortal consciousness residing in a new shell. This means that chronologically, Durin is a 500-year-old entity. This makes him significantly older than the current Hydro Archon, Farina, who is exactly 500 years old. It makes him older than characters like Hu Tao, Diluc, or Jean. He is a contemporary of the catastrophe itself. This is the Durin paradox. He has the physical appearance of youth, a teenager model, but the historical weight of a major world event. In Teyvat, getting a new body is less of a rebirth and more of a software update. The hardware is new, but the data, the memories, the essence, the trauma is still 500 years old. So, if you are looking for the youngest character, Durin is immediately disqualified. He is an elder god in a hoodie. If Durin is a chronological lie, let's talk about Klee. Klee is a full-blown mathematical impossibility that Hoyoverse tries very hard to distract you from. For years, we all assumed Klee was a young child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. She behaves like a destructive, well-meaning toddler. She draws with crayons. She calls people weird grown-ups. But the timeline simply doesn't allow her to be a child. Thanks to a specific event that gave us Diluc's alternate costume, the Red Dead of Night, we received a single concrete piece of evidence that changes everything. Diluc's father, Master Qiqi, died around the time Klee had her 3rd birthday. Now, let's do the math that the developers intentionally hid in the lore archives. We know Diluc's father died on his 18th birthday. Following this tragedy, Diluc left the Knights of the Favonius and Mondstadt to travel across Teyvat, hunting the Fatui for 4 years. He then returned to Mondstadt. The events of the official Genshin Impact manga take place shortly after his return. The game itself starts about 6 months to a year after the manga. This creates a timeline gap of roughly 7 to 8 years between the death of Qiqi and the traveler fishing Paimon out of the ocean. If Klee was celebrating her 3rd birthday when Qiqi died, then by the time the traveler arrived in Mondstadt, Klee had already turned 10 or 11 years old. 10! Now, have you ever met a 10-year-old? They do not talk like Klee. They do not act like a 5-year-old. A 10-year-old is a pre-teen. Klee acts like she is 5. But the ambiguity doesn't stop there. Klee is the daughter of Alice, a witch who is hundreds of years old, a rival to the gods, and a member of the Hexen Circle. Klee is not a normal human. Look at her ears. She is an elf, or at least Teyvat's equivalent of one. This implies a drastically different rate of aging. This brings us to the most intriguing theory. Klee's aging is tied to accumulated experience and memory, similar to the Aramara in Sumera. We know long-lived species in Teyvat do not perceive time linearly. Alice mentions that for her kind, a decade is a blink of an eye. If Klee ages based on mental maturity rather than simple clock ticks, it explains why she looks like a 5-year-old but is chronologically a 10-year-old who has likely been alive for decades. It is entirely possible that Klee has been 10 for 20 years. The developers know that the less they tell us about Klee's exact chronological age, the less angry discussion there is about a child being a destructive weapon of war. They keep her a mystery because mystery sells merch, and it prevents us from asking why the Knights of the Favonius are employing a soldier who still naps at noon. But Klee isn't the only fake child in the roster. We have to talk about the undead elephant in the room. Qiqi. If we judge youngest by physical appearance, Qiqi is the winner. She is tiny. She has the motor skills of a toddler. She needs to be carried. But Qiqi is a zombie. She died hundreds, potentially thousands of years ago during the Adeptal Wars. She was an innocent herb-gathering child, caught in the crossfire of gods, and through a tragic accident involving Adeptal energy, she was frozen in a state of undeath. Qiqi is a tragic counterpoint to Klee. Klee is growing, albeit slowly. Durin has been reborn. Qiqi is stuck. She is chronologically ancient, older than the entire city of Liyue Harbor perhaps, but she is physically and mentally locked at the age of her death. Does she count as the youngest? No, she is a relic. She is a walking museum exhibit. She represents the stagnation of time, whereas Klee represents the dilation of time. And then we have the beast folk blur. Let's move away from the magical anomalies and talk about the mixed ancestry character. Teyvat generally considers them human, but their biology tells a different story. I am talking about Diona. Diona is an amazing example of the developers' deliberate chronological blurring to appeal to different audiences. On one hand, she acts like a rebellious child or a very young teenager. She throws tantrums. She hates adults. Yet in the Durin teaser, we see the concept of being enough to drink brought up. This leads to the hilarious question, does Mondstadt even have a drinking age? And how would that apply to someone like Diona? Diona has cat's line lineage, giving her cat ears, a tail, and incredible night vision. We do not know if cat's line blood affects lifespan. However, Diona is employed. She is the head bartender at the Cat's Tail. She is renowned across the nation for her mixing skills. In a medieval fantasy setting like Mondstadt, child labor might not be a concept, but being a bartender usually implies a level of maturity. The original Reddit discussion joked that in Mondstadt, the drinking age is probably low because they want to ingratiate the youngins to alcohol. While funny, it highlights the fact that in a world of archons and witches, societal rules about maturity are fluid. Diona exists in a quantum state. She is young enough to be cute and act bratty, but old enough to work a service job and understand the complex socioeconomic impact of the wine industry. Is she 12? Is she 25 in cat years? It is impossible to tell. And we cannot forget Sigewinne. If we are talking about characters who look young but are chronologically old, Sigewinne is the final boss. She looks like a human child, but she is a Melusan born from the flesh of Elinus. She perceives the world completely differently from humans. Sigewinne is the head nurse of the Fortress of Meripede. She performs surgeries. She manages the health of dangerous criminals. Chronologically, Sigewinne is likely hundreds of years old. She is another example of Hoyoverse utilizing the lowly Baba trope, an ancient being in a small, cute package to subvert expectations. She is not a child. She is a layer of bureaucracy and medical expertise wrapped in a pastel aesthetic. So, we have ruled out Durin, ancient dragon. We have ruled out Klee, elf or long-lived species. We have ruled out Qiqi, zombie. We have ruled out Sigewinne, Melusan. Who is left? Who are the actual provable children? This investigation usually boils down to two candidates, Sayu and Yaoyao.
Let's look at Sayu. Sayu is a ninja of the Shumatsuban. She is obsessed with sleeping because she wants to grow taller. This implies she is currently in a growth phase, meaning she is biologically young. However, she is a trained assassin and spy. She infiltrates secure facilities. The Shumatsuban doesn't seem like the type of organization to hire toddlers. Sayu is likely a teenager who is simply extremely short, suffering from a Napoleon complex. Her angst is about her height, not her age. She is an adolescent, not a child. That leaves us with one, the only character who seems to be a genuine, standard-issue human child, Yaoyao. Yaoyao is an apprentice. She studies under Madame Ping. She hangs out with Qiqi, who she treats like a younger sister, interestingly, and she carries a spear that is bigger than she is. Everything about Yaoyao screams actual child. Her voice lines are innocent. Her concerns are about eating vegetables and being polite. She doesn't have the wearied eyes of a 500-year-old dragon or the chaotic destruction of an elf. She hasn't been frozen in ice. She is just a kid from Liyue who is talented with a polearm. Her age is most likely what her physical appearance suggests, somewhere between 6 and 9. She hasn't been benefited from ancient dragon essence or magical longevity. She is the closest we have to a control group in this experiment. But even this is Teyvat. Even Yaoyao is tied to the Adepti. She was mentored by Cloud Retainer and now Madame Ping. This means her childhood is being influenced by immortal demigods. She acts incredibly mature for her age, chiding the other characters for being reckless. Is this natural maturity, or is it the result of being raised by a 3,000-year-old grandmother figure? Even our normal child is exceptional. Ultimately, the reason these age discussions are so complex, frustrating, and engaging is because Hoyoverse leaves them vague on purpose. This is the fundamental psychological contract of the gacha game. There's a sweet spot for character appeal that the developers must hit globally. They need characters to cover every demographic. If they make a character like Klee chronologically 500 years old, it justifies her unique power, her relation to Alice, and her potential longevity. But if they made her look like 500 years old, nobody would pull for her. The cute factor is a billion-dollar industry. Conversely, if they made a character like Durin a true newborn, it would simplify the lore, but it would remove the dramatic weight of his connection to gold in the Cataclysm. The gacha age gap is a deliberate design choice that achieves three things. First, flexibility, allowing writers to introduce retroactive lore without breaking established character personalities. Second, marketability, allowing adult players to attach to cute characters without feeling like they are playing a daycare simulator. And third, conflict avoidance, preventing international controversy regarding child soldiers or labor laws. They want us to have these exact discussions. They want us to analyze the difference between a chronological age and a physical age. It keeps the fandom engaged in digging into the archives. The more complicated the age, the more theories we create and the longer we stay logged in. So we come back to the original question, who is the youngest playable character in Genshin Impact? The answer is, simultaneously, no one and everyone. Chronologically, the newest playable character Durin is a 500-year-old entity. Physically, he is a young man. Klee is a child who is probably over 10 and potentially centuries old. Diona is a mystery of genetics. Qiqi is a tragedy frozen in time. In Teyvat, age is a function of magic, memory, and plot necessity. Hoyoverse doesn't sell us characters, they sell us a puzzle box, and their ages are the most complicated pieces. The only thing we know for sure is that nobody is just a simple teenager or child. Everyone has a dark, ancient secret, and everyone is likely older than you are. What is the biggest chronological lie you've uncovered in Teyvat? Which character's age makes absolutely no sense to you? Drop your theories below. I want to hear your absolute wildest takes on the Hexenzirkel and Klee's true age. And if you survived this deep dive into Teyvat's confusing timeline, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more mysteries to unravel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.